Greetings from Agile Learning Lab's world headquarters, beautiful San Mateo, California. And today I want to talk about where do product backlog items come from? In fact, watch for a blog post probably in the next week or two called, Daddy, where do product backlog items come from? So we're gonna follow along, and see, well, how does that happen? Where do they come from? So when some stakeholders and a product owner and a development team love each other very much, that's different. So product backlog, what is that? It's the big master list of all the things we want this Scrum team to deliver in the order that we expect them to be delivered. So each of the items in that product backlog are a deliverable. They're an outcome. They're something that is meaningful and valuable to one or more stakeholders. And I always define stakeholders as being somebody outside of my Scrum team who needs or wants something from my Scrum team. So for example, over here, maybe a little hard to see, but we've got some examples. We've got customers, sales, execs, other Scrum teams. There could be people like architects and stuff like that in our organization that might be stakeholders for my team. If we have a separate documentation group, they would be stakeholders for my team, perhaps. Those are our stakeholders. So product backlog items are things that are valuable to them. The ideas, though, they come from those folks. They might come from my Scrum team as well. Because the members of my Scrum team, while they are not stakeholders, right? They are the team. They're the people who are creating the valuable outcomes. The stakeholders are the ones we create them for. But the members of my Scrum team hopefully understand our stakeholders and their needs and what our product is capable of doing. And they're probably aware of things like technical debt and all of that would be valuable to deal with. And so they can make requests as well, right? The product owner certainly can make requests. Development team members can make requests. Literally anybody can make a request. So, wow, we have these requests potentially raining down on the team from all over. We need to get that under control. Right? Because we don't want those going directly into the product backlog. That would be a bad idea. Right? The product backlog is this carefully managed, prioritized list of what the team is going to be delivering. And we want to keep that really clean. We don't want these things that are like half-baked ideas getting into the product backlog. So we need a place to collect them. I always call this the ProtoBacklog. Da, 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 da. So the ProtoBacklog is this place where all of these inbound requests land. Well, what might these requests be? They might be feature ideas for our product. They might be problems, right, that need to be solved. And they just might be requests for information, right, questions that our stakeholders have. And so all of these requests come into our ProtoBacklog. And while they are in the ProtoBacklog, our product owner works with the stakeholders in order to figure out, well, what is your request? More important than that, what is the underlying value that you're going after here? What problem are you trying to solve? Maybe we get an estimate of the business value from those stakeholders, an initial set of acceptance criteria, right? What would it be for those stakeholders? What would it mean for this thing to be acceptably delivered? So that from there, the product owner can identify, well, which of these have enough potential that they're willing to invest the team's time in refining them further. And so some of these, maybe the question in the bug report, get brought into a meeting. Now this poor meeting has lots of different names. It has been called story time. For example, in my book, The Elements of Scrum, we call it story time. It's been called the grooming meeting because, well, we're grooming our product backlog items. And then I've also heard it called the PBR meeting, which sounds kind of fun, right? We should have lots of cans of PBR around when we have it. But it's the product backlog refinement meeting. It's all the same meeting, just known by different names. and the product owner will bring some potential product backlog items that have been in the ProtoBacklog, get the development team and the stakeholders together, and collectively we're going to discuss and refine these items. We're going to refine and negotiate the list of acceptance criteria for each item. The development team is going to create their initial estimate, right? How much work is it compared to the other items? At the end of it, we may identify that some of these are already sprint ready, right? They're nice and small and well-defined, and they could come into a future sprint. More likely, for a brand new request, it's not yet going to be sprint ready. We're going to need some further refinement. We may need to split it into smaller stories, who knows. But this is the place where we get that information from the development team. And so now the product owner really has all the information they need to decide, do they want to put this in the product backlog or not, right? Some things are, hey, that's a nice idea, but wow, it turns out the estimate looks huge. It's not going to be a good return on investment to do that. Whereas other things look very promising, the product owner does want to pursue them, and so we take them and they go into the product backlog, right? The product backlog is the ordered list of the things we're going to ask the development team to do at some point in the future. So great, right? These are the things that ultimately may come into sprint planning meetings and get committed and developed and delivered in sprints. Well, over time, we tend to have more and more things making their way into this product backlog, very often at a rate faster than the development team can get things done. And so what do we do with that bottom part of the product backlog, right? That part that it's like, oh, we're probably never going to get to that. Well, the exact same thing we do with things that didn't make it past story time or even the initial refinement in the ProtoBacklog. They go into this thing that I've always called the icebox. And the icebox is an unordered, unmanaged list of things that we don't expect we'll ever get to. And so we're not going to have it cluttering up the product backlog. We're not going to spend time actively managing or refining it. We're saying, you know what? We believe most likely we're never going to do that. So we're putting it into the icebox. And mostly the icebox is where things go to die. Although every once in a while, something will happen that makes one of those items interesting again. Hey, we can take it out of the icebox, spawn it out, and bring it back into the product backlog if we like. So there you go. That's how requests get from our stakeholders through the ProtoBacklog into a story time or product backlog refinement meeting and into the product backlog. And then, the things that don't quite make the cut, they're going to end up over here in the icebox. So keep your eyes out for a blog post coming soon that is tentatively titled, Daddy, where do product backlog items come from? You'll find that at agilelearninglabs.com. I'll put a link to the blog in the comments on this video. Also, our most recent blog post as of today is kind of exciting, so go check that out. That one was all about emergency work, right? And that's, what do we do when we have a request that's so hot, it can't go through this process that I just described, right? It just showed up today, but oh my God, we have to work on it today. It's an emergency. So check out the Agile Learning Labs blog for that post as well. And of course, right, if you're thinking about getting your CSM, CSPO, or advanced CSPO certifications, come check out agilelearninglabs.com. We're happy to help you with that. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.